সুধী মণ্ডলী, দেশে বিদেশে টিভির টরন্টো স্টুডিও থেকে আপনাদের স্বাগত জানাচ্ছি পয়েন্ট অফ অর্ডার অনুষ্ঠানে। আমাদের অনুষ্ঠানে আমরা আমন্ত্রণ জানাই রাজনৈতিক এবং সামাজিক নেতৃবৃন্দ এবং আমাদের নির্বাচিত জনপ্রতিনিধিদের। আজকে আমাদের সাথে আছেন বিচেস ইস্ট ইয়র্ক আসন থেকে নির্বাচিত ফেডারেল পার্লামেন্টের সম্মানিত মেম্বার অফ পার্লামেন্ট মিস্টার Nathaniel Erskine Smith. Nathaniel, welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, so one of the youngest MPs going to Parliament from Toronto. Tell me, what made you interested in public service? What motivates you to do what you do?
Well, so I think back to when I've cared about politics most of my life. If I really think back, I was involved in politics as a student in high school in the area. I studied politics at Queen's and I actually ran for city council and lost miserably in my first run when I was 22. I studied politics and law at law school at Queen's as well, and then I studied political philosophy and constitutional law for a year at Oxford. In my view, it's one of the biggest ways we can make a difference in other people's lives and improve the lives of our neighbors and Canadian citizens. What I saw under the previous government, and I think still we have to do a better job of improving people's perception of politics and really showing Canadians that we can make a real difference through politics, and it's not just a way for politicians. It's not just a career for politicians, it's a way we can make a real difference.
Right. Now you represent a constituency where a big majority of Bangladeshi people live here. How would you define your relationship with the Bangladeshi community in your constituency?
So I met the High Commissioner of Bangladesh recently, and I represent Beaches East York, and I am a Canadian Member of Parliament, but Bangladesh is the country I care about second, because when you look at the riding, I represent thousands of Bangladeshi Canadians, and over the when I first started running in the nomination, it would have been I think I first announced in November 2013. I started meeting. I didn't know very many Bangladeshi Canadians in the community. I started meeting people one at a time and started going to events, and fast forward to today, and I regularly attend events. I feel like I've been welcomed into the community in many ways.
Yeah, and I've seen you in a few of those events, and you seem to be very at ease in the Bangladeshi singing, dancing, and all sorts of cultural activities.
Yeah, well, dancing poorly, but yeah.
Right. So, representing this community, obviously you have come across issues and challenges this community faces. What would you say the three most significant challenges or issues that this community faces, and what are your thoughts on those issues?
Well, I think there are issues that are specific to the population as new Canadians with respect to immigration. So whether it's their own immigration matters, whether it's family immigration matters, and then there are some things that the previous government did on the immigration file that I think is very important for us to reverse. So we've taken action on C6, which will fix a bill that worried people in this community, C24, it'll fix that. We have changed the rules to speed up the process for family reunification, which matters a great deal. Second issue, I think, is affordability issues, and I think it's whether we talk housing, whether we talk childcare. Take Crescenttown as an example. The child poverty rate across Toronto is 25%. It's more than 30% in Crescenttown. And so we introduced Canada Child Benefit funds for folks with kids that will go directly to families, and will bring hundreds of thousands of people out of poverty. And apart from the poverty issue, it'll address the affordability issue for lower and middle class Canadians. So, and the third issue, I think, is a continued focus on this notion that diversity is our strength, and that we're lucky to live in Canada, a multicultural country, but we can't forget that, and we have to make sure. I'm looking forward to Canada's 150th anniversary, because I hope we're going to celebrate that idea that we'll celebrate not just Canada, we'll celebrate the many cultures that live in Canada.
Right, and it's nice that you mentioned Canada 150 and the celebration. We have heard that this time one of the organizations in Bangladeshi community is actually taking the charge and trying to organize that. Tell us a little more about your involvement and what should the community expect out of this celebration.
Yeah, so this is not directly organized by my office, but my hope is that this won't be one take a step back. My understanding of the community, there are so many different organizations, and it's wonderful to see all these different organizations. What I want to see with Canada 150 is every organization that represents the Bangladeshi Canadian community come together and work together to celebrate Canada's 150th anniversary. And so Heritage Canada has provided funding to an organization to bring everyone together and to celebrate Bangladesh in Canada, to celebrate other communities in Canada. And my goal, my dream, we'll see if this happens, is to have part of Danforth shut down, and we can see part of Little India shut down and celebrate the Indian community. We see other parts of the community, Danforth shut down for a Greek festival. I think going forward, it would be wonderful to see Danforth in east of Maine and west of Victoria Park, part of the street shut down to celebrate Bangladesh and Canada.
Right. I mean, this is probably one of the dreams that the community has, to celebrate Bangladeshi culture like the Greeks do and other communities do on Danforth. And I've heard that you have been a big inspiration towards achieving that. So
we're trying to make it happen. I mean, I heard, this is partly why I knock on doors. So it seems crazy, even outside of an election, I like talking to people one-on-one. It's not just about going to an event as a politician and being on stage and talking. Then I'm just talking to the community. Knocking on doors and talking to people sitting on their couches after prayers, for example, going and sitting in people's homes, and then you get an opportunity to listen to people. And when I listen, I mean, there are all sorts of concerns that people have, but that idea kept coming back, that we want this celebration for our community on the Danforth. I can't guarantee that it will happen yet, but I'm hopeful.
Right. Now, if I could go back to one of the issues that you mentioned, challenges that this community faces, which is about immigration. You mentioned 2 bills. Could you just shed a little more light on what are the challenges inside? Like, what would be the changes that we can expect? Would it be easier for family immigration? Or what should we expect?
So you should expect shorter wait times for family reunification processing. I remember one of the first conversations I had before I was the Liberal candidate in the nomination, and I was sitting around talking to young Bangladeshi Canadians around my age. They were accountants and lawyers, and they were telling me it would take over 2 years for their spouse to join them in Canada. And my initial reaction was, my wife Amy would kill me if it would take over 2 years for us to be together. And so that's what we need to fix, and that's what we're going to shorten those wait times. The goal at the end of the day is to have them less than a year, but we're going to make improvements along the way to get there. Right.
And just very quickly, I want to know about another issue. I believe there is a bill in Parliament about Islamophobia, and you've been a champion of that. Tell us a little about that.
Yeah, so it's not a bill. So Motion 103, it won't change the law, and it won't affect free speech in any way. It doesn't create new laws. Sometimes we have these motions before the House, and they ask us to express our opinion as Parliament on certain issues. So I'll give you an example. We had a motion before Parliament in 2015, when I was not there, to condemn anti-Semitism. There was a rise of anti-Semitic incidents around the world, and the Canadian Parliament wanted to express its condemnation of that. So similarly, we've had the President of the United States call for a Muslim ban during the election. We have had, certainly since even going back to 9/11, we've had an increase of hatred towards the Muslim community. We just recently saw a really depressing protest outside of a mosque calling for banning Islam and that Muslims are terrorists. We saw obviously the attack in Quebec where 6 men were killed by an alt-right extremist in Quebec. And so in the wake of all of that, a colleague of mine from Mississauga put forward a motion, and I jointly seconded the motion to condemn Islamophobia, and not just Islamophobia, but all religious discrimination and all systemic racism, and calling on a committee to study the issue and see what we can potentially do to address this. And I think it's not just about one community, it's about calling out all discrimination. But certainly Islamophobia is a very good example of that kind of discrimination that we should condemn in Canada right now.
Yeah, and I think it goes to the core of being Canadian. You stand up against any kind of discrimination, whatever shape or form that may be. Right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The Canadian idea is we can have different religions, we can have different ideas about how we want to live our lives, and we respect each other. We tolerate each other, and we treat each other as equals. Simple as that.
Right. Now, let's go to some other issues. Not issues, actually. Your travel plan.
Yes.
We have heard that you are going to Bangladesh sometime soon.
Yeah, so I'm an active member of an organization called the Interparliamentary Union. It is 172 parliaments around the world are part of this organization. So hundreds of parliamentarians will be in Dhaka at the end of March, early April for a conference. It's very important for me because not only am I an active member of the IPU, I'm also the chair of the Canada-Bangladesh Parliamentary Friendship Group. And of course, as I say, I mean, I represent Canada, but I also represent a large number of Bangladeshi Canadians, so this relationship matters a great deal to me. So I will be arriving in Dhaka on March 30th, and I'll be staying until April 6th. And my hope there is to meet with political leaders from Bangladesh, to meet with civil society leaders, and to really experience the country as much as I can in 7 days, so I can even better relate to my constituents when I come back.
Right, and I'm sure you're looking forward to having some nice, authentic biryani and fish curries. Right.
I am looking forward to the food, the visiting the sites that people have told me about. I mean, just as an example, we just had International Mother Language Day fairly recently, and we have a Shaheed Minar that is a temporary one that comes up once a year, but I'm looking forward to seeing the real thing and to visiting the monuments in Dhaka as well.
Right, and that brings up a very important point. The people, Bangladeshi community, they have been really trying for almost decades now to have a permanent monument celebrating the International Mother Language Day. How do you think you can get involved and support this initiative?
Yeah, so obviously, I wish I'd been in politics 10 years ago to help make this happen, right? So my understanding from where we're at, I mean, I was not specifically involved in the process because it was before my time, is the city has taken the initiative to get this done, and where I think I can assist from here on out is potentially two things. One, hopefully obtaining some funding to make it happen, because right now I understand there's not funding for the project. So I raised the issue with the High Commissioner. I plan to raise it when I'm visiting in Dhaka. And the second thing is really bringing the community together, because sometimes with these plans, one part of the community goes off and decides to do one thing, and I think more than anything, with International Mother Language Day and a monument such as this, it's about the whole community coming together and making sure we celebrate together, because I mean, the idea of International Mother Language Day is celebrating linguistic diversity, but doing it together.
Right. So you brought up a very important point, the International Mother Language Day monument. You know that is very close to the people of this community. How are you involved, or how can you support this initiative?
So the city has taken the lead on working with the community to develop plans, and this was all before my time. I certainly wish I had been able to play a more active role in bringing it to where it is today, but I can certainly help from where it is today bring it to a reality. And so I have certainly reached out to the city to offer my assistance. I've reached out to the High Commissioner to say, here's where things are at, let's get Bangladesh involved, and let's make this really a partnership between the city, the province, the federal government, and Bangladesh.
Right, and I must tell you, being a part of that organization who's trying to build this monument, I really look forward to working with all our elected representatives from all parties and all the leaders to make this happen.
Yeah, and I think it's important to get all of the leaders involved from the different levels of government, and the more that we can assist and that everyone from the community comes together and rallies around behind a project like this, you know, I have loved being part of International Mother Language Day celebrations, because they really do bring the community together, and I think that's so important with a celebration like that, and it's so important to have a monument that everyone can get behind and wants to be together in recognizing IMLD.
Right. Now, Nathaniel, I want to ask you this. What services does your office provide? Because this is very important for us.
Yeah, that's very important.
Many of us even don't know when and how we should contact our elected representatives. So could you just tell us about the services that are provided from your office and how we can access those services?
Yeah, of course. So we provide a range of services. Really think of it in two ways. So first, we help on the constituency level. And so my office is at 1902 Danforth. We're just west of Woodbine on the north side of Danforth. And we're open 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And if you have an immigration problem, any federal government service, so immigration, Canada Revenue Agency, if you're a senior and you have an issue with guaranteed income supplement, or your Canada pension plan, if you're a student and you have an issue with your Canada student loans, we assist with helping businesses, and if they're applying for federal grants, if they're applying for Canada Summer Jobs Program, anything to do with the federal government. Most of our work, of course, is immigration because that's where the most bureaucracy is and the most demand from our community. And so any federal government service, if you have an issue with the bureaucracy, you come to us, we'll get you information, and we'll assist. We also help from the constituency level with support letters for applications to the federal government, and we also help with support letters in the community. So if there's an important thing happening in our community that we want that ought to be recognized, we'll do a certificate to recognize that initiative. The other piece that I can help with is not on the constituency level, but is in Ottawa. And so if there is an issue that you care about policy-wise, so to give an example, we spoke about immigration. If you have a specific file, our constituency will help. If you want the policy changed because you don't think it's fair, you come to our office and we'll advocate in Ottawa to make that happen. So we are successful in different ways. Sometimes we have more success on the constituency side, but raising issues with ministers and raising issues with the Prime Minister and raising issues with our government is also very important. And so think of it as policy and then specific case files that we can help with. Those are the two ways.
Right. Amazing. Thank you so much, Nathaniel. It was amazing talking to you. Yes, we are running out of time, but I really hope that we could have you in our show a few more times to talk in detail about the issues that matters to us.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm obviously happy to attend anytime.
Right. And I would ask you to give a message to our viewers from you to them, very up close and personal.
Yeah, sure. So for me, we started the conversation by talking about how I was a young MP. So I'm 32, I'm the youngest MP for the GTA, and it is an honor to represent Beaches East York, where I grew up and my parents are, and I live with my wife, and I have a 6.5-month-old now. But it's been a really special honor to represent the Bangladeshi Canadian community. There isn't a Bengali MP, and so I take it very seriously to bring issues that matter to this community to Ottawa. And I feel like, there's myself, there's Bill Blair, there's Rob Oliphant, and a few others. There's a core group of us who are there to represent Bangladeshi Canadians in Ottawa. So if there's anything I can ever do to do a better job of that, to an event I should be attending in the community, thank you for welcoming me into the community, and I look forward to representing you and continuing to represent you for as long as you'll have me.
সুধীমণ্ডলী, এতক্ষণ কথা বলছিলাম নাথানিয়েল আর্সকিন স্মিথের সাথে, আর তিনি যেটা বলে শেষ করলেন খুব ইম্পর্টেন্ট একটা কথা, যে প্রথম কথা হচ্ছে তার অফিস থেকে সার্ভিসগুলো আমরা যা পেতে পারি, ইমিগ্রেশন হোক, ট্যাক্স হোক, আপনারা তার অফিসে যাবেন। নাথানিয়েল সবসময় একটা ওপেন ডোর পলিসি রাখে, নির্দ্বিধায় আপনারা তার অফিসে যাবেন, তার সাথে যোগাযোগ করবেন, তার স্টাফের সাথে যোগাযোগ করবেন। আর সে যেটা বললো আমাদের কাছে খুবই মনে হলো ইম্পর্টেন্ট, সেটা হচ্ছে যে বাংলাদেশি কমিউনিটিকে সে তার নিজের সেকেন্ড হোমের মতো রিপ্রেজেন্ট করতে চায়। আমরা আশা করব যে আপনাদের যে কোনো প্রয়োজনে নির্দ্বিধায় আপনারা তার সাথে যোগাযোগ করবেন। দেশে বিদেশে টিভির টরন্টো স্টুডিওতে আমরা এতক্ষণ কথা বললাম নাথানিয়েলের সাথে, আর আগামীতে আমাদের অনুষ্ঠান দেখার আমন্ত্রণ রইল। ধন্যবাদ সবাইকে।
ধন্যবাদ।